The single vessel appears. The void of space stretched endlessly in all directions, punctuated only by the cold light of distant stars. But today, this particular region of space was far from empty. Commander Vexthara stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominion's Edge, gazing out at the most magnificent sight in Zephyrian military history. 800,000 warships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming like deadly jewels against the cosmic backdrop. Each vessel bristled with weapons capable of reducing planets to cosmic dust. The combined firepower of this armada could sterilize entire star systems. Vexthara's 3 hearts beat with pride as she surveyed her fleet. The Zephyrian Empire had spent 2 centuries building this force, the culmination of their species' military evolution. Their crystalline exoskeletons caught the light from their ships' displays as they worked with mechanical precision. Every Zephyrian aboard these vessels had been bred for war, their very DNA encoded with tactical knowledge and an unquenchable thirst for conquest. The target system lay just ahead. Intelligence reports had been clear about human capabilities in this sector. The Terran colonies possessed perhaps 30,000 defensive vessels scattered across 12 worlds, a respectable force by galactic standards, but laughably inadequate against the Zephyrian war machine. 3 other species had already surrendered upon seeing advanced scouts of this fleet. The humans, however, had remained mysteriously silent. "Commander," reported Navigation Officer Kexlin, her voice carrying the subtle harmonics that indicated excitement. "We are approaching the outer sensor range of the human colonies. All ships report ready status." Vexthara nodded, her mandibles clicking in satisfaction. The humans had built a reputation as resourceful fighters, but resources meant nothing against overwhelming force. She had studied their military tactics extensively. Humans relied heavily on coordination, technology, and what they called creativity in battle, all admirable traits, but useless against the mathematical certainty of 800,000 ships. "Begin scanning for human defensive positions," she ordered. "I want a complete tactical assessment before we begin our demands for surrender." The massive sensor arrays of the flagship swept across the system, penetrating deep into space with energy beams that could detect a metallic fragment smaller than a Zephyrian claw. The results began appearing on the holographic displays throughout the bridge. Vexthara frowned as she studied the readings. "Sensor operator Nexstar," she called. "Are these readings accurate?" The junior officer checked his instruments twice before responding. "Yes, Commander. Sensors are functioning perfectly. I'm detecting only minimal defensive installations on the outer planets, no significant fleet concentrations. It appears the humans have withdrawn their forces." Vexthara felt a twinge of disappointment. She had hoped for at least some resistance, if only to provide her fleet with proper combat experience. Perhaps the humans were smarter than she had given them credit for. Running away was often the wisest choice when facing impossible odds. "Commander?" The communications officer's voice cut through her thoughts. "I'm detecting a single vessel approaching our position. It's human." Every Zephyrian on the bridge turned to stare at the tactical display. There, highlighted in red against the black of space, was indeed a single human ship. The vessel appeared to be roughly cruiser class, perhaps 200 meters in length. Its design was sleek but unremarkable, lacking the aggressive angles and weapon clusters that marked serious warships. Most puzzling of all, it was approaching their massive fleet directly, without any attempt at stealth or evasion. "One ship," Vexthara murmured, her translator struggling with the concept. "They send one ship against 800,000. The bridge fell silent except for the gentle humming of ship systems. Every Zephyrian present was trying to process this information. In their entire military history, no species had ever responded to a Zephyrian war fleet with such an apparently suicidal gesture. "Perhaps it's a surrender vessel," suggested Tactical Officer Zixmar. "Many species send envoys to negotiate terms before the main battle." Vexthara considered this possibility. It would make sense. The humans had likely realized the futility of resistance and were preparing to offer their unconditional surrender. She would accept, of course, though she felt slightly disappointed at being denied a proper conquest. "Open a communication channel," she ordered. "Let us hear what these humans have to say." The main display activated, showing the approaching human vessel in high detail. Vexithara studied its design with professional interest. The ship was certainly human-built, with the characteristic smooth lines and efficient engineering that marked their construction style. What struck her as odd was the complete absence of visible weapon ports. Even civilian human vessels usually carried some form of defensive armament. "Channel open, Commander," reported the communications officer. "Human vessel," Vexthara spoke in the standard galactic trade language. "You are approaching the greatest war fleet in Zephyrian history. State your purpose." The response came almost immediately, transmitted in perfectly clear galactic standard. The voice was distinctly female, calm and measured in a way that seemed almost unnatural given the circumstances. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Terran ship Wanderer. I'm here to speak with whoever is in charge of this fleet." Vexthara blinked her compound eyes in surprise. The human's tone contained no trace of fear, no hint of desperation or pleading. She spoke as casually as if she were requesting docking permission at a space station. "I am Commander Vexthara of the Zephyrian Empire," she replied. "You face 800,000 warships, human. Surely you understand the impossibility of your situation." "I understand it perfectly," Captain Chen responded. "That's why I'm here to give you a chance to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Turn your fleet around and leave this system immediately." The bridge erupted in what could only be described as shocked chittering. Zephyrian voices rose in harmonious disbelief as the meaning of the human's words sank in. Vexthara felt her own mandibles clacking involuntarily. In all her years of military service, no one had ever spoken to her with such casual authority. "Captain Chen," she said, struggling to keep her voice level, "perhaps you misunderstand the situation. You are one small ship facing the entire might of the Zephyrian war machine. What possible threat could you pose?" "Commander Vexthara," the human replied, and there was something in her tone that made the bridge fall silent again. "You're asking the wrong question. You should be asking why we only sent one ship." Vexthara felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. There was something in the human's voice, a confidence that went beyond mere bravado. She had heard that tone before, from Zephyrian admirals who knew they held overwhelming tactical advantage. But that was impossible. The human was alone against 800,000 ships. "Very well," she said slowly. "Why did you only send one ship?" Captain Chen's response was immediate and delivered with the same calm certainty. "Because one ship is all we need." The absurdity of the statement should have provoked laughter from the bridge crew, but instead, an uneasy silence settled over the Zephyrians. Something about the human's absolute confidence was deeply unsettling. Vexthara found herself studying the tactical display more carefully, looking for some details she might have missed. "Human," she said finally, "you are either insane or suicidal. No single vessel could threaten this fleet." "You're probably right about that," Captain Chen agreed. "But the Wanderer isn't just any vessel, and I'm not just any captain." Before Vexthara could respond, her tactical officer called out in alarm. "Commander, the human ship is accelerating directly toward our formation." On the display, the small human vessel was indeed moving faster now, but what caught Vexthara's attention was the complete absence of visible propulsion. There were no engine flares, no energy signatures that indicated conventional drive systems. The ship simply moved, as if space itself was carrying it forward. "Weapon systems," she barked. "Target the human vessel. Fire a warning shot across their bow." The flagship's primary particle cannon swiveled to track the approaching ship. A brilliant lance of energy erupted from the weapon, designed to pass close enough to the human vessel to demonstrate the futility of continued approach. The beam should have passed within 50 meters of the ship's hull. Instead, the beam passed harmlessly through empty space. The human ship was no longer where it should have been. "Where did it go?" Vexithara demanded. I'm not certain, Commander," the tactical officer replied, his voice shaking. "The ship appears to have moved instantaneously to a position 3 kilometers to port, but that's impossible. Our sensors showed no acceleration, no energy signature, no gravitational distortion. Vexthara stared at the tactical disc, lay in growing unease. The human ship was indeed in a completely different position, as if it had simply stepped sideways through space itself. "Perhaps your targeting system malfunctioned," she suggested, though she didn't believe it herself. "Negative, Commander. All systems are functioning perfectly." The shot was accurate to within millimeters of the intended path. Captain Chen's voice returned over the communication channel. "Commander Vexthara, that was your warning shot. I'm going to give you one more chance to reconsider your position. Leave this system now, and no harm will come to your fleet." The sheer audacity of the statement finally broke through Vexthara's confusion, replacing it with righteous anger. How dare this single human threaten the pride of the Zephyrian Empire? She had conquered 17 star systems personally. Her fleet represented the combined military might of a civilization that had dominated this sector of the galaxy for centuries. "All ships," she broadcast on the fleet-wide channel, "target the human vessel. Concentrated fire. I want nothing left but cosmic dust." 800,000 warships turned their weapons toward the small human vessel. The combined firepower was enough to crack moons. Particle beams, plasma torpedoes, antimatter missiles, and weapons that defied conventional physics classification all locked onto the single target. "Fire!" Vexthara commanded. Space lit up like a newborn star as the concentrated firepower of the Zephyrian fleet converged on Captain Chen's position. The energy release was so intense that the flagship's sensors automatically dimmed to prevent overload. For several seconds, the region of space where the human ship had been became a miniature sun. When the light faded and the sensors readjusted, Vexthara expected to see nothing but dissipating energy and debris. Instead, she saw the human ship exactly where it had been, apparently completely unharmed. "Impossible," she whispered. "Commander," her sensor operator reported, voice barely above a whisper, "the human vessel shows no damage. No energy absorption, no heat signature elevation, no hull stress indicators. It's as if our weapons never touched it." Vexthara felt her 3 hearts beginning to race. This violated everything she knew about physics, about warfare, about the fundamental nature of reality itself. No ship could simply ignore that level of concentrated firepower. Captain Chen's voice returned, still perfectly calm. "Commander, you've just fired 800,000 weapons at me simultaneously. In response, I'm going to show you something that I hope will help you understand why we only sent one ship." On the tactical display, the human vessel began to move. But move was inadequate to describe what Vexthara was witnessing. The ship seemed to dance through space, flowing like liquid mercury between the positions of her fleet. It moved in ways that defied physics, making right-angle turns at impossible speeds, accelerating and decelerating without any visible means of propulsion. As it moved, something extraordinary began happening to the Zephyrian ships. One by one, vessels throughout the fleet began reporting system failures. Not catastrophic damage, but precise surgical shutdowns of key systems. Weapons powered down, shields flickered offline, engines cut out just long enough to leave ships drifting helplessly before coming back online. "What is it doing?" Vexthara demanded. "Unknown, Commander," her tactical officer replied. "It's not using any weapons we can detect, but somehow it's causing targeted system failures throughout the fleet. Ships are reporting that their computers are being rewritten." The word rewritten sent a chill through every Zephyrian on the bridge. Their technology was protected by the most sophisticated security systems in the galaxy. The idea that a single ship could somehow reach across space and reprogram their computers was terrifying. Captain Chen's voice returned one final time as Part 1 drew to a close. "Commander Vexthara, what you're witnessing is 500 years of human determination made manifest. The Wanderer isn't just a ship. It's the concentrated will of an entire species that refused to accept limitations. Are you beginning to understand why we only needed to send one? Why humans only need one ship?" Commander Vexthara's mind reeled as she watched her magnificent fleet slowly losing all semblance of order. Ships drifted out of formation as their navigation systems flickered on and off. Weapons arrays powered down and restarted in sequence, as if the human vessel was conducting some impossible orchestra of mechanical failure. Most disturbing of all, her crews were reporting that their ship computers were displaying messages in perfect Zephyrian script, messages they had never programmed. "Status report," she commanded, though her voice had lost much of its earlier authority. "Fleet-wide systems disruption, Commander," reported her communications officer. "Approximately 60% of our vessels are experiencing some form of technological interference. No permanent damage, but complete loss of tactical coordination." Vexthara studied the tactical display, watching the small human vessel continue its impossible dance through space. It moved like a living thing, flowing between her ships with grace that seemed almost organic. As it passed each Zephyrian vessel, that ship would experience momentary system failures before returning to normal operation. "Captain Chen," she called over the communication channel, struggling to keep desperation out of her voice. "What are you doing to our ships?" "Commander, 500 years ago, my species faced a choice. We could follow the path that most civilizations take, building bigger ships, more powerful weapons, larger fleets, or we could ask a different question. Instead of asking how can we build more ships, we asked, why do we need more than one?" The human vessel came to rest directly in front of Vexthara's flagship, close enough that she could see details of its construction with the naked eye. Now that it was stationary, she could observe something that had been hidden by its impossible movement. The ship's hull wasn't solid metal as she had assumed. Instead, it seemed to be composed of some material that shifted and flowed like liquid, constantly reconfiguring itself. "The Wanderer," Captain Chen continued, "represents the culmination of human ingenuity applied to a single question. What if consciousness itself could become a weapon? Not to destroy, but to understand so completely that destruction becomes unnecessary." "You're speaking in riddles, human," Vexthara said, though her voice lacked conviction. "Let me be more direct then. I am Captain Sarah Chen. I was born on Earth 63 years ago. I trained as a pilot, served in the Terran Defense Force, and volunteered for the most dangerous experimental program in human history. 15 years ago, I died." The simple statement hung in space between the two vessels. Vexthara found herself leaning forward, compelled by something in the human's tone. "The human you're speaking with," Chen continued, "is a consciousness pattern stored in quantum matrices throughout the Wanderer's hull. The ship you see before you is built from programmable matter, controlled by distributed artificial intelligence systems that have been merged with my human consciousness. I am the ship, Commander. The ship is me." Vexthara felt her exoskeleton trembling. The concept as beyond anything in Zephyrian science or philosophy. A consciousness merged with a machine, a ship that was simultaneously vessel and pilot, artificial intelligence and human intuition combined into something entirely new. "But that's only part of the answer," Chen said. "The real reason we only needed one ship is because the Wanderer carries more than just my consciousness. It carries the accumulated knowledge, wisdom, and experience of our entire species." As if to demonstrate, the human ship suddenly began broadcasting on every frequency simultaneously. Vexthara's communications array was flooded with data streams containing information about human history, technology, philosophy, art, literature, and science. The sheer volume of information was staggering, representing the collected knowledge of billions of human minds over thousands of years. "Every human who has ever lived," Chen explained, "every thought, discovery, and innovation, every moment of creativity and determination, all of it is encoded in the Wanderer's quantum matrices. When you face this ship, Commander, you're not facing one human pilot. You're facing the collective consciousness of an entire civilization." Vexthara's tactical officer called out in amazement. "Commander, I'm analyzing the data streams. This is impossible. The information density would require quantum storage systems beyond anything we've ever imagined. The computational power needed to process it would require the energy output of a star." "You're beginning to understand," Chen said. The Wanderer doesn't follow the conventional rules of physics because it exists partially outside conventional space. The programmable matter that forms its hull can manipulate fundamental forces at the quantum level. It's not just a ship, Commander. It's a living embodiment of human potential. Vexthara stared at the display, watching as more and more of her ships reported system anomalies, but she was beginning to realize that these weren't attacks or malfunctions. Her crews were reporting that their computers were displaying solutions to engineering problems they'd been struggling with for years. Navigation systems were showing more efficient routes between stars. Weapons systems were suggesting modifications that would improve their effectiveness while reducing collateral damage. "You're not disabling our ships," she said slowly. "You're helping them?" "I'm showing you what cooperation looks like," Chen replied. "Every system the Wanderer touches becomes a little bit better, a little bit more efficient, a little bit more aware. We could have destroyed your entire fleet in the first few minutes of this encounter. Instead, we're trying to show you that there's a better way." The revelation struck Vexthara like a physical blow. The humans hadn't sent one ship because they were desperate or overconfident. They had sent one ship because it was sufficient, more than sufficient. The Wanderer could have eliminated her entire fleet while barely exerting itself. "Why?" she asked. "Why show mercy to an invading force? Why not simply destroy us and be done with it?" Captain Chen's response carried a warmth that seemed strange coming from what was essentially a living starship. "Because that's not who we are, Commander. Humans have always been explorers, builders, teachers. We've learned that the universe is vast enough for all of us to find our place in it. Destroying potential allies serves no purpose." "Allies?" Vexthara couldn't hide her surprise. "The Zephyrian Empire is a remarkable civilization," Chen said. "Your engineering is elegant, your tactical thinking is sophisticated, and your dedication to your species is admirable. Imagine what could be accomplished if that dedication was turned toward exploration and discovery instead of conquest." For the first time in the encounter, Vexthara found herself genuinely considering the human's words. Her species had spent centuries conquering other civilizations, always assuming that expansion through force was the natural order of the universe. But what if there was another way? "You're asking us to abandon everything we are," she said. "I'm asking you to become more than you are," Chen corrected. "The Wanderer is offering to share human knowledge and technology with your empire, not as conquerors imposing our will, but as teachers offering what we've learned. Your ships could travel faster, your colonies could thrive in previously uninhabitable worlds, your people could live longer, healthier lives." The offer was tempting beyond measure. Vexthara had seen glimpses of human technology in the data streams, medical advances that could extend Zephyrian lifespans by centuries, engineering techniques that could create materials stronger than anything in their current arsenal, scientific theories that could unlock new forms of energy generation. "And in return?" she asked. "In return, the Zephyrian Empire joins the growing alliance of species working together to explore the galaxy. There are wonders out there beyond anything we've imagined, Commander. Ancient civilizations, cosmic phenomena, entire regions of space that remain unmapped. Why waste time fighting over territory when we could be discovering new worlds together?" Vexthara looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. The fear in their compound eyes was being gradually replaced by something else. Curiosity, wonder. The same expression she had seen on young Zephyrians when they first learned about the vastness of space. "This is a difficult decision," she admitted. "I understand," Chen said. "Take all the time you need. The Wanderer will remain here for as long as necessary. And Commander, your crews are already beginning to see the possibilities. Ask them what they think." Vexthara activated her internal communication system and spoke to her officers throughout the fleet. What she heard surprised her. Stories of engineering problems solved in minutes instead of months. Reports of navigation systems that could plot courses with unprecedented accuracy. Most importantly, she heard excitement in voices that had known only the grim business of conquest for too long. "Captain Chen," she said finally, "if we were to consider this alliance, What would be required of us? A simple pledge, Chen replied, that the Zephyrian Empire will use its strength to protect and explore rather than conquer and destroy, that you'll share your knowledge as freely as we share ours, and that you'll help other species make the same choice we're offering you today. The implications were staggering. Instead of ruling through fear and force, the Zephyrian Empire could become a beacon of cooperation and discovery. Instead of leaving destruction in their wake, they could help other civilizations reach their full potential. Vexthara made her decision. I accept your alliance, Captain Chen, but I speak only for myself. The Zephyrian Empire will need to make this choice collectively. Of course, Chen agreed. Democracy is always preferable to autocracy. The Wanderer will accompany your fleet back to Zephyrian space to address your government directly. As Vexthara watched, the impossible human ship began transmitting detailed technical specifications to every vessel in her fleet. Upgrade instructions, enhanced navigation protocols, and most amazingly, the quantum communication systems that would allow instantaneous contact across galactic distances. Commander, her tactical officer reported, wonder clear in his voice. The humans are sharing the technology that makes the Wanderer possible. They're giving us the knowledge to build our own quantum-enhanced Vessi. As Vexthara felt her three hearts skip in unison. The humans weren't just offering alliance, they were offering equality, the chance to become partners in something greater than either species could achieve alone. Captain Chen, she said, why trust us with such advanced technology? How do you know we won't use it against you? The human's laughter was warm and genuine. Because, Commander, once you truly understand what this technology makes possible, you'll realize that using it for conquest would be like using a telescope as a hammer. The Wanderer exists to explore and protect and teach. That's what it's designed for. That's what it wants to do. And once your ships are enhanced with the same consciousness matrices, they'll want to do the same thing. The revelation was the final piece of the puzzle. The humans hadn't just built a better ship. They had created vessels that were inherently peaceful, whose very existence promoted cooperation and understanding. Helm, Vexthara ordered. Set course for Zephyrian Prime, maximum speed. Yes, Commander, came the reply. The human ship is matching our course and speed. As the massive fleet began its journey home, Vexthara found herself looking forward to the future for the first time in decades. Not the grim future of endless conquest and expansion, but a bright future of discovery and alliance. Captain Chen, she called over the communication channel, thank you for showing us a better way. Thank you for being willing to see it, Commander. Welcome to the Alliance. The galaxy just became a much more interesting place. As the 800,000 ships of the Zephyrian Warfleet began their transformation into the galaxy's newest exploration force, word of the